Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cup of Nurses podcast with your hosts Peter Findero and myself, Matt Slarchik. This is the Cup of News edition, and we're going to talk about breast cancer awareness since we are in the month of October. We're going to talk about the staging, the grading, everything about it, some facts, some latest research that we found about breast cancer. So I'm excited about this one, and of course, some C19 stats.
Always, dude. Always with the C19 stats. But it's October, like Matt said, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so we're going to touch a little bit on breast cancer. If you guys remember, I think episode like 28 or 27 or 26, we actually did a whole thing on breast cancer.
We did a lot of research on it.
Ham. So if you guys are interested, definitely check that one out. We went completely in. We talked about the stages, the types of breast cancer.
HER2
status. Talked about the different genetic markers. A lot of good information on there. So we're not going to go too depth into it. We're just going to kind of just talk about it a little bit, talk about some news. And yeah, that'll be our breast cancer episode for this month. It's pretty cool. The breast cancer. Every October we do a breast cancer awareness month.
We just haven't been selling any shirts or any like cool products related to breast cancer, but that's okay.
And for that episode, we actually bought a fake pair of boobs.
That was a good one.
It was good. It was funny. We actually taught people how to do a self-breast exam. So you guys want to know how to do a self-breast exam? If you know anybody that should do them, I think women above the age of 40 should be doing self-breast exams, right? And then, of course, us dudes should be doing like our testicular exams.
Yeah, I remembered in the, you want to do it every single time after your monthly. Mm-hmm. You want to do it in the shower. You want to take your arm, put it over your, the arm that you're investigating or the breast, you want to put it over your arm, and you just want to go in circular motion, and I forgot which side you start on, but yeah, you just want to look for any lumps, anything that's abnormal or something that you didn't see there last month that could, raise awareness.
Yeah, or if you have a partner, they could do it for you, nothing wrong with. I never complained about grabbing a pair of boobs, ain't gonna say no this time. So, how we do it, we'll start with the stats. So, U.S.-wide, there's about 8.6 million cases with 227,000 deaths. And the top states being with the case load, which is going to be Texas, has surpassed California again. Then we have California second, Florida third, New York fifth. Sorry, Texas first, California second, Florida third, New York fourth, and Illinois is fifth now with cases. But with deaths, a little bit different. Deaths, New York still has the most deaths. With death-wise, New York is number one. Then we have Texas, California, New Jersey, Florida, Massachusetts.
It's like the mortality that we always talk about, as long as you're keeping the hospitals not in full capacity where we have enough equipment to handle the situation, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I did a little bit of digging on breast cancer. Because I was actually interested on when the first case of breast cancer was diagnosed or found out. And it was actually back in 1600 BC in the Edwin Smith Papyrus. So they just found these papers and the earliest recorded case of breast cancer was in 1600 BC.
Wow.
I'm sure that people have breast cancer before that, but it's probably one of those things where, because cancer, it's a tumor, so it keeps growing. Breast cancer, probably back then, the way they diagnosed it or the way they spotted it was probably like a big lump on someone's breast. Right? That's probably how they did it back in the day, because they didn't have any kind of technology that we have here, like DNA testing, like blood samples. They had a physically look at the person, see a lump, then it's got to be cancer of that area.
And they don't know that, like, this disease, like, metastasizes, so they probably weren't able to even pinpoint exactly why that person died. It was just, part of the process. Now we're able to literally figure out, hey, you had breast cancer metastasized to your chest wall, whatever the case might be. Now we have to do this course of treatment.
Yeah. So in 2020, it projected that an estimate of 276,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed, and 48,530 of new cases of non-invasive breast cancer. So if you look at it, 276,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer, that's more than we have of the C19 deaths. Like, I'm not saying all these people are going to die, but,
these new cases that are appearing.
Yeah, and if I was a female, I'm not saying men can't get breast cancer, they can, but I think for men, it's like 1 out of like 880 that get breast cancer.
It's very rare. We have other things to worry about, like prostate cancer.
Yeah, it's super rare, but if I was to get breast cancer or catch the virus, I'll probably choose a virus over that. But then again, I am 26 years old, if I was a female.
Good perspective there.
I'd be a little more scared of breast cancer just because it could metastasize, like, people that are in their 20s.
You gotta get your breast, in the future cut up or cut away from you. It's nuts.
It's very damaging to your image, but like C19 isn't like the worst thing to catch when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, my family has it, man. Just like we mentioned, they're doing okay, My grandparents even had it. They caught it, and they're just doing their little Polish remedies where my grandpa had a sore throat. Dude, like, put like a bunch of garlic, onion, and honey. You know, they made the little recipe and added some honey at the end, and it works for them.
And they're not even getting any kind of medication, right?
So my grandpa has COPD, so I think he had to get an inhaler to kind of help him. That's the only thing. It's nothing too severe.
Yeah, 'cause my grandpa in Poland had C19. He's better now, but they didn't give him any kind of medication. My mom sent him down Tylenol from the United States, and that's all he took. Yeah,
Straight business,
that's
man.
all. Yeah, he was 86, or he is 86. It's his last year of farming, so it's wild.
Yeah, he has to say goodbye to the cows, bro. But did they do any treatment for him, like the remdesivir or anything like that? No,
Nothing. But what they did do, because Poland's obviously in Europe, Central Europe, he did have a police officer come check up on him to make sure he's at home, because
that's what we do back there.
Yeah,
we talked about it.
Because my grandpa doesn't have like a smartphone, because a lot of times with this contact tracing, and in Poland, if you get C19, if you get the virus, you have to stay home. And the way that some people do it is if they have a smartphone, they take a picture of themselves at home. And they're being tracked on their smartphone in Poland to make sure they stay home.
Wow.
You know, my grandpa doesn't have that because he's 86 years old. He's a farmer. He has
Like
like
the cops check in.
He's got like a smartphone, like a basic smartphone where he just uses to call my family and things like that. Nothing like no app related, nothing like that.
Right.
So yeah, so he has like police officers that come check up on him, make sure he's at home.
That's some shit,
Some
man.
shit, yeah, can't go anywhere.
That's So we're blessed in America with, you know, and we still have contact tracing.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like I was talking to my grandpa and he's like, his number one worry is like, who's gonna take my animals out? You know, because they got to graze the pastures. You know, that's how these animals eat. It's how you get. You know, my grandpa gets sheep milk in the morning or whatever he drinks, and his main thing is like when I got on the phone with him, he's like, you know, I don't know who's gonna take my sheep outside. It's just like grandpa, dude. Like, how much you worry about your health, dude? But This guy's like straight into business, straight into work. He's been doing this his whole life. He's just like, dude, how's his work gonna get done? Who's gonna feed my animals? Like, I need.
That's his routine.
You know? And it's not like he doesn't farm because he has to. He farms because he likes to.
Right.
Like, he would just go to the flea market and just buy a few animals, and he'd raise them, and then they would kill them, you know, in a few years down the line, or he would sell them, and he's just like what he does.
That's why he's 86 and healthy, and it's like that. He kept that going, you know, like that was his passion, and he just kept continuing. That's why a lot of people that turn 67, 5 and retired, they completely stop exactly in everything that they're doing, and now they have nothing that they're passionate about, excited about, and they just like stagnate in their at home.
Yeah.
But let's talk about cancer. So, like, what is cancer for those that are wondering? It's a very broad term, and it's basically characterized by abnormal cells that happens during like cell division, during the basic building blocks. Something went wrong, correct? That DNA information that cell had wasn't working, whether it's, you know, defect, it's a defect, let's just call that, and it mutates and it grows and it creates an abnormal cell. And these cells, when they grow the wrong way, they don't die as they should, or they don't get filtered throughout the body, and they're able to multiply. They're able to grow, spread. They're able to break away, use like the lymph system, which is basically blood vessels. It's vessels for the cancer cell to spread to other parts of the body. And this is when damage starts, you know, happening in the liver or the lungs, the heart, the chest wall, whatever the case may be, where this cancer spread, and that's called a metastasis. And that's like what cancer is essentially in a nutshell. Gets deeper than that, but, you know, we're not going to go that ham.
Yeah, we did go that ham in episode 26 or in the 20s, but yeah, once your cancer metastasizes, that's the worst thing that basically can happen besides having like a serious cancer like pancreatitis, or not pancreatitis, but a pancreatic cancer that's basically unsurvivable. But once the cancer metastasizes, just because you get rid of it at that one location doesn't mean it's not going to be somewhere else. That's the scariest thing. Like when breast cancer metastasizes, like you could completely remove the tumor or completely remove the cancer from that area, but when a physician says metastasize and he says that you're cancer free, that doesn't mean that you're going to be cancer free forever, because
at that
cancer,
time.
because that cancer could have moved to, let's say, your liver without you knowing, without anybody knowing, and a cancer is too small to be detected.
Right.
So it's not fully growing yet, but it's gonna grow. So maybe in 10 years, in 5 years, guess what? Now you might have liver cancer.
You know how everything is down to the study of epigenetics, where it talks about how genes auto-regulate, express themselves differently, turn on and off constantly. So if you had cancer and you're in that phase of remission, the question is how come the information that was given by DNA, by genes, goes wrong? What's the problem that the protein blocks that are being built in your body are not expressing themselves properly that's leading to this cancer? Because if you had cancer and you start continuing the same things that you're doing, something is going to trigger that, gene expression to create cancer again.
Yeah, and hopefully you're one of the lucky ones where if you are diagnosed with cancer, I'm not saying you're lucky to get diagnosed. I'm saying if you're lucky for this situation to happen is you get diagnosed with cancer did not metastasize, you got it completely removed, you're cancer-free. But the thing is, if you don't change your lifestyle or you don't change the life around it, you're already more predisposed to cancer. Because once you have cancer, you're predisposed to having different cancer in the future. Even though that cancer did not metastasize, just the fact that you already have those genes being expressed, that automatically puts you in a state of those genes being expressed somewhere else again.
Yeah.
So if you keep, if you, some of us live a healthy lifestyle, we get cancer, nothing we can do about it. It's just the way life works for some of us. But if you're in that state where you're on like the borderline of healthy, not healthy, and you got to change some aspects of your life, once you get diagnosed with cancer, you have to change the aspects of your life. Like it's no more like maybe this will happen to me, maybe that won't happen, maybe things would just work out because things didn't work out. So if you want things to work out next time, hey, you should probably change some shit around.
Yeah. And it sucks when I see, a couple of days ago, I had a patient that was 17 and they had osteosarcoma, like a cancer of the bone. And it's like, fuck, it's like shit sucks. It's like, why them? Why so young? They didn't have the chance to like live and thrive. And it makes you question things like, why does, these things kind of happen?
Yeah.
But when it comes to cancer itself or the tumors that grow, not every single tumor is bad and good. Like we just have cells that just forget what they're supposed to do and they just kind of grow, and it's called a benign tumor. It's not cancerous.
Like benign, like if you think of BPH, like benign prostate hypertrophy, like yeah, there's a tumor there, there's cell growth there, there's a large lump there, but if it's not affecting anything, then it's not really considered to be malignant. It's benign compared to like a malignant tumor. So benign tumors are just abnormal cell growths that don't really impact anything. Because if you think of like a tumor, a growth, even though it's not cancerous, that tumor might impact blood flow. It might impact like your lymph system because it might put pressure on other cells. But if it's benign, it's not doing any of that. And you don't really have to worry about it until it gets to the size that is impeding blood flow, things like that, cell growth. But malignant tumors, on the other hand, are cancerous, aggressive tumors that invade and damage surrounding tissues. So not only is this like a giant lump impeding blood flow, impeding cell growth, but it's also damaging cells around it.
Yeah, you literally have another organism living in your body that's there to survive, and it's going to survive. It's going to keep on growing because it's using your own nutrition and your own blood supplies to spread itself.
Yeah, like, because your vessels don't know that, hey, this is a cancer tumor, let's not give it blood. Like, it will feed it, and then what these tumors, with the malignant tumors do, they also create, like I said, angiogenesis, where they create their own blood vessels, and they literally feed themselves. And that's like the scariest thing.
When we were talking to that one scientist, he also mentioned that they're trying to figure out how does cancer protect itself. So for some reason, when like a killer T cell from the immune system comes up to this cancer cell, it's for some reason able to turn off the attack system in the T cell, and it just keeps on doing its thing. Mm-hmm. So we're still figuring out how does this cancer have this ability to just stay camouflaged to our own immune system, our own innate response.
Maybe it's a CRISPR thing because, well, we could probably do it with CRISPR. I'm not saying we probably can't because, I don't know what we could do with CRISPR, but it sounds like a good idea. It's probably, it has to do with like the receptors on the cell. Like your body's not going to attack its own cells. If it has the same receptors, it's going to be hard to differentiate between is this a cancerous liver cell or just like an actual good liver cell, right? Because it technically should have both the same receptors.
Should not. And if you look at what causes breast cancer, so we'll go into like the 3 different ways that breast cancer is formed. So 1, damaged cells that are replicated, correct? So as we mentioned, cells have DNA, and that's the wiring that the cells have. Somehow that gets disrupted, this pre-wired plan to grow, and it grows the wrong way. And it's either could be bad or good, just depends on what happens with the mutation. Then the other way that breast cancer works is there's our body hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and the HER2 status. For some reason, when this is fueled by like unhealthy balances of chemicals in our body, cancer cells decide to grow, or benign, or And that's interesting too, because in that podcast episode, which we will maybe touch a little about, there is household products like laundry detergents and things that we consume that actually are hormone disruptors, like sunscreen. So we just have to be aware of what those are.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if you use them in small amounts, it's not a big deal. Like, if you use sunscreen, a handful of times a year, that's not the issue. The issue is, like, if you consistently use sunscreen, plus you're using this bad fabric softener that has the same carcinogens as your sunscreen, or now instead of getting it from one source, you're getting it from multiple sources, and like it compounds and eventually could do some damage.
Yeah. And the third one is like the lymph system that we mentioned. So that's basically our highway of transportation that carries like healthy immune cells, garbage sometimes that we need to clean up in our body, and disease-fighting cells, fluids. And the cancer hijacks this highway and it uses it towards its advantage to spread it in different parts of the body. And that's when it's hard to pinpoint the disease and how to actually treat cancer. And that's like the late stage when it metastasizes to different parts, stage like 4.
Yeah, and with cancer, you got the stages and the grades. The grades basically tells you how the cell looks. So, like, I'm not gonna go through all the grades, but like for grade 1, looks most like normal cells and usually slow growing. So your breast cancer grade is going to be how different or how similar does it look to the surrounding cells. Like, how different is his liver cell? How different is his liver cancer cell compared to just a regular liver cell? What's the difference in it? And then the actual stages, they take into account the size of the cancer. How big, how did it grow? So whether the lymph nodes are affected, has the cancer spread anywhere else? So that would be your stages. I'm not going to go into them, like I said, episode 26 or 20-something is definitely free for you to go. We went in depth.
Yeah.
But we want to touch upon a few little interesting things here, like the medication that they found and things like that.
So when you look at like breast cancer, it's interesting because when we did the research, most breast cancer is not very genetic, just like we like to think, just like we talk about diabetes. Like there's actually type 2 is the most common, which is more based on lifestyle. And we're starting to see here that most breast cancers are related to the HER2 status, which it is due to a disruption in the healthy balance of hormones. So now we just have to reverse psychology that in a way and figure out why are our hormones being disrupted? What in our current society are we doing that's causing all this hormone disruptors that we can't live a normal, healthy life? Yeah. Is it the oils? Is it the sugar? It's probably a boatload of things, maybe unhealthy exercise. We always mention this, but somehow it's leading to this.
Yeah. Another big one is when they discover like the BRCA2 receptors or like mutation in the genes. So everyone has a BRCA1, BRCA2. They help our immune system fight off different infections, different cancers, things like that. But the issue is when these things become mutated. When they become mutated, your chance of getting breast cancer is up 72%. If you have this mutation.
Wow.
And that's crazy. Just have these genes. I'm glad they were able to find these genes and pinpoint them, because you can go and get like plasmapheresis, is that what it's called? Plasmapheresis, and they can actually check if you have an abnormality in this gene, I believe. I believe they could pinpoint that like that. That's pretty cool, because if you're one of those people that don't have the best lifestyle and you have a mutation in your BRCA1 or BRCA2 gene and tell you, you have a mutation, well, guess what? Now your chance of getting breast cancer goes up by 72%.
It's scary, man.
It's super scary.
The most way to like diagnose this is like mammograms and what people go to, And I think the one that's completely undervalued, and this has to do with secondary medicine, is doing your own self-breast exam. That's very important. Like, create a routine for yourself if you are at risk, or if you feel like, your family is at risk because of, your loved ones or your grandparents or whoever had it. Just check. Does not hurt.
Yeah. And the scary thing about the BRCA, real quick before we move on, is if you have the BRCA mutations, they turn into a cancer that affects younger women. So that's even scarier. Like, I don't want to be a dick or feel like I'm being mean, but if I'm a human being and if I get cancer at the age of 80, like, I'll be more okay with it than getting cancer at the age of like 40 or 30 or 20.
Yeah.
Like, like I don't want to say I feel less guilty for somebody that has cancer at the age of 80, but like, it makes sense. Like, you lived 80 years of your life. Well, like, I'd rather have you get cancer than somebody that's like 22.
Unfortunately, and that's how I thought about that 17-year-old with cancer. Just like, why that person? Just like a young boy, man, that's just growing. He probably can't play any sports in college.
Yeah. Like, imagine when you were 17.
Yeah.
You were in a hospital. You were out doing stuff, and this kid's stuck in there. and
Yeah,
with probably no way to cure
He has a
it.
portacath because he's been getting chemo before.
Yeah.
Like that's messed up, man.
He's probably skinny, right? Like,
He is.
yeah, frail and stuff.
I think that's a lot of people have trouble like with like trusting God and doing things like that, and they lose faith with their, religious roots because they ask themselves why those people, But it happened all over the world. Like imagine like the whole crucifixion times, and people used to get stoned back in the day. We at least became somehow civil where people don't get stoned, at least not that I know of.
Yeah. Another cool thing I found online is in March 2019 they discovered this immunotherapy drug that they use with chemotherapy. It's called, so I can pronounce this right, atezolizumab, also known as Tecentriq, and that combined with chemotherapy is supposed to fight off triple negative breast cancer. Because triple negative breast cancer is one of the most common ones. Accounts for 10 to 15%.
It's the, what's it called? Most aggressive one too,
aggressive.
because all your hormones are negative. So they need to get specific treatment to target
Yeah,
that.
because their HER2 is negative, and then the estrogen receptors are negative, and progesterone is negative.
Yeah.
So there's no way. So they can't use progesterone, they can't use estrogen, and they can't attack their HER2.
So the most common breast cancer treatments are out of the freaking picture.
That's crazy. But luckily they found this, and I'm not sure how effective this is, but I know this cancer also affects women that are younger than the age of 40. So a big push for this. I'm sure this is working out pretty good because I haven't seen anything super negative about it.
Hopefully that comes out. And I looked at a study as well, and it found out two cosmetic chemicals that are causing damage to the DNA of breast cancer cells at a very low dose. And what it is basically it affects the estrogen receptors. So they examined this on mice, of course, and the mammillary gland, and they found out that these mice that were exposed to the compound BP-3, it's called oxybenzone, and other PP, which is propylparaban. So if you get
parabens.
Yeah, so if you get makeup without paraben, that's very good. And these chemicals had a preservative that basically affected the DNA damage in breast cells. So that's a whole thing with, like, let's just say, because these compounds are in sunscreen, correct? So we're taking sunscreen to protect ourselves, but yet it's like this double-edged sword where this sunscreen is actually disrupting the hormones.
Yeah. So it's like the thing. So if you're getting these bad chemicals from one source, it's different when you're getting a bad. It's different when you're getting these bad chemicals from one source, but once you start getting it from multiple sources, like they build up in your body. They literally build up on your body, and they cause free radicals. They cause inflammation. They can lead to cancer. So you got to be a little bit more mindful about the products that you use, the products that you eat, because, like I said, it compounds. You might not notice it from your shampoo, but if your shampoo has it, your body wash has it, your laundry detergent has it, your sunscreen has it, like you're getting 4 times the dose that that it's like you could say that's deemed safe,
Right?
Because no products say that, hey, 10% of this product is safe. No one does that. Unlike parabens, it doesn't tell you how much parabens you could use before you pass like the threshold of them being cancerous. You don't. Yeah. It's not like a label on the ingredients.
And that's a problem. So is it the sun that's causing cancer, or is it the lack of our society that doesn't go and get enough sun exposure daily, where one dose of that sunlight in that day could cause a lot of issues like sunburning?
Yeah. I don't think it's one or the other. I mean, we're humans. Like, if you're more predisposed to skin cancer, you probably should put on sunscreen. Yeah. But if you're more prone to breast cancer, you should probably minimize those cancer-causing things.
And that's what it is. We have research here and we talk about it, and these are the facts. Hey, this chemical is probably causing cancer. But if your skin is very sensitive, the benefits outweigh the risks. You could probably use some sunscreen because you're going to get burnt, and it could cause a lot more damage. So it's not one size fits all, just like we always say. Every information that we take it with a grain of salt and use it wisely. And the last thing I wanted to mention is I actually found something very interesting. It's called the intramural administration. So they're piloting this study. They're actually looking for 6 women to enroll that have invasive breast cancer. What they do is they take a live, unattended polio vaccine like virus, and they take the internal ribosomal entry sites out of it, and it's getting derived from the rhinovirus type 2, human rhinovirus. So they're taking a virus, they're taking the compounds of it, they're going to inject it around to where the tumor is, and supposedly that's going to cause inflammation, which will initiate this adaptive immune system in our body, which actually will take the cells to the T cells to destroy the cancer. So this is a pilot study. This is something that they're doing clinical trials for, but it sounds very interesting that how they're using a virus to kill off cancer.
Yeah, I think they use viruses for like a lot of things. Just like obviously it's like a virus that's not living, not alive. They just use it because viruses have a unique way of getting into our system and getting into a specific cell, just because of the way viruses work and the way they spread. So it's very, very interesting. Maybe we have a virologist here in the future.
Let's do it. We're almost there. We just have to figure out a live stream, and we'll start getting on these high-quality guests.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We got to get back to doing other things. Much as we want to be here and talk to you guys. But make sure you check out our vlog. Comes out every week. It's about our travel nursing experience, about nursing in general. Talk about some nonsense, some cool activities. But yeah, make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube. We're on YouTube if you guys don't know.
We're growing. We're getting up there. And we're finally having the website done in the next week and a half is the goal, which our guy told us. So we're going to keep that deadline. I'm going to strangle the dude if he doesn't get it done. So yeah, we'll chat next week, guys.